Alright, what's going on, y'all? Okay, so if y'all have subwoofer amps and they keep going into protect, now stay with me. I know, stay with me. Y'all are gonna think this is clickbait, you think I'm gonna be scamming you, but it's not. Just bear with me here, okay? So if y'all have subwoofer amps that keep going into protect, this is a cheap and easy fix for it. And what it is this is a 2006 Chevy Silverado. And I'm gonna tell you a little story here because, bear with me, you have to hear the story in order to understand the solution. So the story is, y'all saw my setup on my other video. I'll link to it up here where I modified the back seat so that, I get to my amps. But that's the setup, and it's a sub amp and a 4-channel amp. So it kept going into protect on me, right? And I couldn't figure it out what the problem was, and I couldn't figure out how to solve it. So you can see my setup here. I already did the big three, right? I have awesome grounds, bolted straight through the block, clean under it, wire wheeled, everything's good. Same with the power, to the body, to the chassis, everything. You can see my ground. Well, where is it? It's down there somewhere. There it is. Right there, bolted. So that wasn't the problem. And then they bolt straight to the frame. So that wasn't the problem either. Okay, so that wasn't the problem either. So the problem I was having was when I was driving down the road, the lights dim because it's drawing so much power. I need a higher output alternator. But what was happening was the amps would cut out. So I thought, okay, well, the voltage is draining down to a point where it's going into protect itself. So I can't recreate this for the video because, I already have it all fixed. But I said, okay, so I'm going to watch the voltage. So I hooked the multimeter up at the amps so I could see what the voltage was at the amps. And I legit watched it in the truck while I was driving. And the voltage actually rose. So I was like, what the hell? The voltage actually rose. It went up, on the heaviest bass songs when it was hitting hard, the voltage went up, and it was like, climbing up. So I was like, what the hell is going on here, dude? What would happen is the bass would hit hard, and it would immediately drag the bass sub, the monoblock into protect. Which it would take the 4-channel amp, sundown amp, so it's a good amp, it would take that amp with it. Every single time, never failed, boom, and then it'd go into protect, and then take the other amp with it. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, so I'm like, all right, easy fix, I'll just get more power, because obviously it's draining down to a point, and the amp does not like that, so it protects itself, because the voltage is too low to protect itself. Well, it was opposite of that. The voltage was getting too high. It was getting too high. So I'm like, how is that even possible, right? Okay, so here's where the cheap fix comes in. Y'all are gonna hate on this. I don't care. Do what you want. It's your truck. This is what I did, and it's been working fine for like 5 years now. And I'll show you the right way to fix it. But you take this cover off. This is a 2006 Chevy Silverado 4.8 1500 two-wheel drive. But see this plug right here? You disconnect it. Okay? What this plug does right here is the alternators on these trucks, and this is what I learned, and this has solved my problem. It has never gone into protect with this disconnected. Now, I know y'all are saying, oh, clickbait. No. Trust me. I'm gonna explain to you how the alternator system on this works briefly here so that, you understand why it fixes it. And not to talk down to y'all, but I'm just trying to say, I'm going to share with y'all what I learned along the way here. So the way that these alternators work on these year trucks is, you can see, this is a DR44G. And I think, if I recall correctly, I don't have any specs on it right here, but I think it's a 140 amp alternator. I'm pretty sure. So you can see it has this plug here, and then it just has the stud here, and it goes down right there, and it's got the stud. That's where the positive comes out, right? And then we have our ground here, so we're good on that. All right, so the way that these rectifiers work on these trucks is the computer, they're extremely controlled by the computer. So it's not like the old school days where it's just one post, you know, and it's not controlled by the computer. What was happening is the computer sends a pulse width modulated signal, a PWM signal, and it looks like this on an oscilloscope. It looks like this, right? And it's like a 5-volt signal. At the peak, it's like a 5-volt signal. And basically, the computer has a table in it. Depending on the amount of load on the battery, on the charging system while you're driving, from all the way from like 10 to 20 up to 100% load or duty cycle or whatever they're calling it. And basically what it does is it ramps up the voltage because it thinks the battery is draining. So when that base hits hard, it thinks, oh, 12.5 volts for a split second. Computer tells the alternator, the rectifier, bump the voltage up. So it started climbing, right? It started going all the way up, up, up until it maxed out at like 15.5. Well, the sub amp max voltage is like 15 volts or whatever. It was something weird, whatever it was. So second it got up, boom, all the way up to that 100% on the chart, the 100% duty cycle or whatever they're calling it, that sub amp would go straight into protect because the voltage was too high. And it blew my mind when I figured it out. You know, I had to hook the multimeter up to figure it out. I thought, you know, oh, it's just draining down too low, and it killed it. But I'll post right here. You can see on this chart right here, you can see on the left side, you can see the duty cycle is, you know, ranges all the way from low all the way up to 100%. And you can see the voltage that corresponds with that. And, you know, some amps are good to run at like 19 volts or whatever. But you can see on this chart that if you have an amp and it goes into protect at like 15 volts or whatever, this is no good. So, back to the video now. You can see from that chart, you can see that I'm not lying to you. That's how this thing works. And now the solutions are disconnect it, which is what I did, and all that gets you is it defaults back to the default charging voltage, which is 3.8 volts, which is what all the old Chevys used to charge at. You know, that's the default charging voltage, is 3.8 volts. If you're happy with that much voltage for your setup, you know, you're good with that. Just leave it at that, and just leave it disconnected and make sure it doesn't get where it doesn't need to be. You're gonna see that battery light flash on your dash, but I basically ignore it at this point. I don't even realize it's there. That's the simplest, easiest, cheapest, free, you know, it's basically, it's free, you just disconnect it. Free fix. Now, if you want to get in and actually fix this thing and make it work how it's supposed to, and get the max voltage so that you can get the max power out of your amps, what you're going to have to do is, because I looked into it, I wanted to get some kind of external regulator for this thing and set it at, say, 14.5 or whatever, so that I could get the max voltage to my amps, so that I can in turn get the max watts out of my amps. That was looking, there wasn't really anything aftermarket that people were actually doing with these things. So I was looking at getting an external rectifier, but then I don't think the external rectifier worked with this. How many pins is that? Can y'all see that? 2 pins. I don't think there was anything that would work with this, so that was kind of out of the question. You can go back to just an old school Chevy 1-pole alternator, and then I think the external rectifiers work with that, so you can set it where you wanted it. But then the light bulb, you know, low power service charging system, warning is still going to be on probably since it's disconnected, so that's not really a real option. You can get aftermarket high output alternators. I'll put links in the description for those. You know, they're spendy, but if you need it, you need it. I don't know how they handle the voltage regulation on those. I'm sure they don't mess with this crap. They're probably just I might be totally wrong. You know, they might have this where they just hook in. I never got that far with the aftermarket alternators because they were so expensive. I just disconnected it and left it at that. I need to make sure I leave this stupid thing off. So, really, maybe somebody like Black Bear Tuner or somebody like that that tunes these trucks, they might be able to shut that table off and just leave it at, you know, 14.5 or something like that. I don't know. That's beyond me at that point. You're gonna have to contact them and ask them if that's something they could do. Like I said, it really just wasn't worth me getting that deep into it. I might revisit it someday, but so the options are disconnect it, maybe look at a custom tune where they can shut it off in the computer. I don't know if that's possible, or keep it at like 50% or whatever so that it stays at a stable voltage. Custom tune, disconnect it, custom tune, old school Chevy alternator, which honestly in my mind would be the cheapest best, is put an old school Chevy alternator on here and an external regulator and then set it at the voltage you want. Or see what the aftermarket high output alternators like Iragi alternators, Mechman alternators, what those guys do as far as fixing this problem. So if y'all want to look into that, I'll put a bunch of information down in the description where, you know, you can figure that out, or buy aftermarket high output alternator if that's the route that you want to go down and find a solution that works for you. So my solution is disconnect this stupid thing and leave it right there. And then put your cover back on. You know, your mileage may vary, depending on your vehicle, but on these, it was a serious problem. Like, I'm not just, you know, trying to make a video out of this. It was a serious problem, and every time the bass would hit, right, the voltage would increase. It would increase, and it got up to the max, 15.5 or whatever it was, and the sub amp would go into protect. So my solution was disconnect it. And to prove that I'm not lying, I got this set up for 2 seconds here. I'll show y'all that it defaults back to that's the battery right now. I'll show y'all that it defaults back to 13.8. So let me go crank this bad boy real quick. So you can see 13.76. I mean, we can plug this thing up and see what happens. I mean, I'm not leaving it that way, but see, 14.5, which is right where I want it at. But like I said, when there's a load on this thing, you know, it'll climb all the way up to 15.5, and I don't have to prove it to y'all because I showed you the chart of how it works. So this video is getting long here, but we'll see. You know, I'm going to disconnect it here, and it'll default back to 13.8. So, you know, 1.5 volts, I know it makes a huge difference when you're, I know it makes a huge difference when it comes to getting power to some guys, but, you know, some guys, it's good enough is good enough. Let me go kill the truck here. Alright, so I just leave mine disconnected. If y'all know any real solutions to this problem, please post in the comments down below. Inform me, let me know, so that, you know, I want to fix my stuff and get the max out of it that I possibly can. And I know, you know, everyone else in the YouTube community wants to know what the solution to this is, other than just disconnecting it. So, you know, help everyone else out. Help me spread the information. Help people that have watched this or are watching this not have to just disconnect it unless they just want a free fix like this video is showing you. But I haven't had any ill effects from this. They say maybe like fuel mileage or something like that. The fuel rails or injectors rely on the higher voltage or something. I don't know, but I haven't had any problems with it. Any fuel mileage. I mean, this sucks gas anyway, so. Alright, y'all. Thanks for watching. If y'all enjoyed this video and y'all want links in the description to those aftermarket alternators, don't forget to check down below, because I'll link y'all up to all those so that you can check those out and see. Hopefully they have a better solution for this. But if not, make sure you drop me a big thumbs up for getting y'all the free fix on this. And don't forget to comment and let me know if there's a better way of doing this. And don't forget to subscribe down below and hit that little bell notification so that you get notified when I post new videos like this. Peace.